Hello, everybody, and welcome to, what is today, Tuesday? Tuesday Decision. Big We'll kick off live right here on Giants.com and the Giants mobile app. John Schmelk pinch hitting for Lance Meadow today. Lance a little bit under the weather. Sitak was in from yesterday. I'm in today.
He's under the weather?
He's under the weather.
He's a little person. I didn't think you can get under weather, though.
If you can get under something, Lance is the guy to go to.
Lance, I'm sorry. Feel better out there, bro.
We hope he's back tomorrow. I'm trying to track somebody down to talk some Michigan prospects. I'll have to go to Plan B if I don't get a return call shortly. But today we have a big show. We're going to talk some Notre Dame prospects with Eric Hansen, who's been joining us for a long time, and then we're going to talk some Iowa prospects with Tom Kakert from the Hawkeye Report. So a lot coming your way today. Howard, I haven't hosted a show with you in what seems like a while. How you been, man?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing? What's happening?
I'm doing great. Everything's good. Kids are good.
There you go.
Had a feisty trip to Sesame Place on Sunday afternoon.
A feisty. I love that. That's pretty funny. I've been pretty. Alabama made their first Final Four.
So I know. Congratulations.
I'm pretty happy
so
right
now.
now.
Officially a basketball school, right?
Yeah, officially a basketball school. I like it. I appreciate it.
Couldn't quite do enough.
Didn't have a big man. Yeah. Still don't have a big man.
They hung with Connecticut as well as anyone has, though. I think
they did a good job, but the no big man thing is going to be a problem. They're probably recruiting right now, looking in the transfer portal, I would imagine.
I'm sure there's plenty of them in there to find them as well.
Yep.
Howard's first love, is Alabama, but his second love is Notre Dame because he has some blood relations there. And I'm sure we'll talk about Howard Jr., but first we're going to talk about all the Notre Dame prospects heading into the 2024 NFL Draft with Eric Hansen. He's been joining our show for a very long time. We get him again this year, despite the fact spring practice is going on. He's carving out some time for us. He's the co-publisher of InsideNDSports.com. Eric, you got John Schmelk and the big fella Howard Cross here in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Hope you're well, man.
I'm doing great, and thanks for having me on.
Oh, good to hear from you, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. In fact, Howard Cross III's name came up during the Riley Leonard interview today.
Oh, no.
How so?
He said, well, Howard had the sack in the Duke game way back on September 30th, and Riley's been dealing with some ankle issues this spring, and it looks like it's moving in a great direction. But he said, every day Howard sees him in the locker room, he says, I'm so sorry, man.
Yeah.
But I think he's pretty happy that Howard is on the team going into next year. So.
Yeah, and not going against him. Yeah, I've been hearing it a lot. I'm glad he's doing better because I was worried that that ankle injury is coming back on him, but glad he's doing better, and he's looking good, I heard, too. Howard said he's been walking around looking like he's doing pretty good.
Well, Eric, you already brought up Howard Jr., so let me start there.
He's the third, by the way.
Howard Cross the
I'm
third.
Junior.
My bad. Little Howard the third.
Oh, no.
But he ain't so little anymore. Eric, talk about where he is. I know he could have came out this year heading into his what we think is going to be his final season at Notre Dame.
This is his final season.
Yeah, he's run out of this. He's exercising his COVID year, and he's redshirted. So this will be his sixth year, and they had four players, including Howard, who came back, that makes you really excited that a team that was fifth in the country in total defense last year, maybe even better this year. Riley Mills, who plays next to Howard, came back. All-America safety Xavier Watts, and then Jack Kaiser, a 60-year linebacker. Right up the middle, you say, wow, what a great start. And then they got their defensive coordinator, Al Golden, to come back as well, which was huge. So, and signed him to a contract extension. But Howard Cross I think he made second-team All-American in every single one of the five that count toward unanimous and consensus All-American. So he just has to move up one team to get those honors. But he was so productive last year, and what an incredible thing for Notre Dame to have him decide to return. I'm sure Howard can shed some light on what went into the decision, but it was for all four of those guys to come back, and all four of them would have been drafted and will be drafted next year.
Well, he really came back because Coach talked to him about, possibly getting his master's degree and being able to, kind of complete it in this last season. And he's like, really? Like, I'm that close. And he goes, do you think I would come back and get my master's? I'm like, if you go play in the league and you have a successful career, no, you're probably not going to go back for your master's. So he was like, really? Why not? I was like, you just won't be trying to go back to college. He's like, yeah. He's like, well, I'm like, I'm just giving you the best advice I can give you. I said, but if you want to go, get yourself ready for the draft. I will support you either way. He goes, I'd really like to get that master's. I'm like, I would really like for you to get it too. So that's what he's doing.
Well, I can tell because I think he misses Wednesdays. It conflicts with the Wednesday practices, which, yeah.
Notre Dame's an academic school. You guys don't let people out of class.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to go to class. Yeah, but that's during practice. Yeah, no, that's not.
Notre Dame's not Alabama now, where it's football first, and then they schedule your classes around the football practice. It's a little bit different.
There's no like, yeah, you can go to practice today. We'll miss this class. Like, yeah, no, you go to class. That's it.
Howard, why don't you lead us off with the big top prospect coming out of Notre Dame here?
Tell me about Alt. How's he been, showing up? Still, is he working out there? Is he off somewhere working out at some of those workout places, getting ready for the draft, getting himself ready? Has he been around campuses all, or is he just totally into, I'm getting ready to get drafted, I'm getting ready for whoever I'm going to play for?
He is totally into, I'm going to get drafted, and totally into who am I going to play for. He came back for Pro Day, though, in I think it was March 21st was the date for that, and he did work out for that, as did the other guys. But, I mean, wow. I mean, Notre Dame has produced so many really good offensive linemen.
That's true.
All time, but certainly in this last decade or so with, Zach Martin and Mike McGlinchey and Quentin Nelson and Ronnie Stanley. And, I mean, it just goes on and on. It's like every left tackle, Liam Eichenberg, and then Joe Alt is the latest and maybe the best in the lineage of left tackles. I don't know. I mean, it's going to be hard to hop over Zach Martin, who I think has made All-Pro every year as a guard in the NFL. But, yeah, I mean, Joe Alt came in as a, and Howard can speak to this with his own son. Howard III was a 3-star recruit. So was Joe Alt. And, I mean, these star systems don't always get it right. They don't always know how a player's going to develop. And Joe Alt, I mean, he was starting by the middle of his freshman year and has just gotten better and better.
Yeah, and Eric, I want to follow. I'm sorry, can I follow up real quick? And I think it's important to note this. One of the reasons he was a 3-star recruit, I think, Eric, is that he wasn't an offensive tackle in high school. He did a little bit, but his dad wanted him to play tight end. So he comes into Notre Dame. I imagine he probably wasn't even close to 300 pounds, right? Can you talk about his development curve since he's gotten there, and how maybe there is still some really room for him to keep getting better since he doesn't have a ton of experience playing tackle?
Yeah, he played tight end mostly in high school. He played some tackle. He got to Notre Dame, and he, between his high school senior season and when he got to Notre Dame, he was pushing 300 by the time he got there.
Wow.
And initially, the guy that they put at left tackle was also in that class, was the 5-star prospect who was Blake Fisher, who was also in this draft, came out as a junior. They're the first 2 offensive linemen in Notre Dame history to come out as true juniors. They've had other positions, but never offensive linemen. So those are the first 2. And Blake Fisher actually started the opener, got injured against Florida State, and then there was a little bit of a revolving door. And Alt was a guy they were looking at as like an extra blocker and some jumbo packages. So he actually kind of did line up as a jumbo tight end. And then in the middle of the season, Brian Kelly kind of went, you know what? I think this is our best option. We want to become more physical. Let's get this guy in there. And it's just been lights out ever since. He's just gotten better and better. And, they're going to miss him next year. I'm sure Riley Leonard would have loved to have Blake Fisher and Joe Alt for next season.
But you guys just keep bringing them out. You know you'll have a couple other guys.
Yeah,
you guys
there's some good ones behind them too. Howard, you probably have seen Charles Jagaza play a little bit in the Sun Bowl. True freshman who missed a lot of the season coming back from a torn PCL and had an ACL injury as well, and he ended up starting in the Sun Bowl, and he'll be the next one that we're talking about a few years from now.
I want to get to Blake Fisher in a second. Just one more thing on Alt real quick. How much, if at all, has he played on the right side for Notre Dame or before he got there? In practice, does he take snaps there? I know his in-game snaps are all left tackle, but if the Giants decide to go tackle, you're not going to move Andrew Thomas off the left side, right? So he would be a guy that you would slot in at right tackle. Does he have any experience as far as, in practice taking snaps on the right side, or would that be a whole new footwork change for him that he really hasn't done before?
Playing tight end, I would imagine you have some abilities.
That's why I'm asking him the question,
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty much been a left tackle and worked there in those very early weeks, again, when Blake was the starter during that training camp leading up to his freshman season. He did some right tackle work, and again, he was that jumbo extra lineman and stuff. I mean, he's so athletic and so smart and such a film nut. I think he could adjust to whatever they ask of him. It would be a shame if he wasn't a left tackle, but I think he could play right tackle, and I don't think that would be a problem. I think some people, the hand placement and the angles and some of those things, I don't think it would be a problem for Joe Alt. He is such a technician in addition to being such a good athlete. I don't think it will be a problem, but very little experience there.
Absolutely. So let's talk about his running mate, Blake Fisher. How's he panning out? How did he do in the pro day? Was he having as good a day as he had in the season, or was he just how did he shine? Let's just put it like that.
Yeah, I mean, Blake is super athletic. I mean, obviously, there had never been a left tackle to start opening day as a freshman, and Blake became the first person to do that in Notre Dame history. So that shows you what they thought of his trajectory. Then he misses that whole freshman season until the bowl game, and by then Alt was established, so Blake became the right tackle. I still think Blake Fisher's best football is ahead of him. He's a really good athlete. He's not as long as Joe. I mean, Joe is every bit 6'8", and Blake is 6'5". But I think he's got a great future ahead of him. I think had he come back to Notre Dame, he would have probably been a first-rounder in the next draft. I think he'll still be a second-day pick and a pretty good value just based on his athleticism, his work ethic. And, again, he's just coming into his own, having missed that whole freshman year. So he's got 2 years of playing at college.
Howard, I know you're a big fan of Audric Estime, so why don't you touch on what you want to do with him with Eric?
Now, tell me, I know that they're talking about his 40 time and how elusive he is. I've watched him since high school. He and Howard were teammates in high school. No one really catches him from behind. They might have an angle to catch him, but no one really runs him down. So he's a big guy that gets out quick. He has good hands. People don't realize that as well. He can catch the ball. How do you see him making it in this next level?
There's something inside of Audric that propels him, and I think whatever challenge is going to be put in front of him, and Howard, you probably know the story. His mom passed away when I think he was 10, and from sickle cell disease, and his aunt and uncle raised him, not married aunt and uncle, a sister and a brother of the mom.
Oh, wow.
Raised him, 2 different households. And a lot of people would never get over that, and he uses his mom as inspiration, and, he's been through a lot. And even when he was at Notre Dame his freshman year, Logan Diggs was another freshman, was ahead of him. He barely played his freshman year.
Yep.
And he just made himself into a 1,000-yard rusher. He kind of willed himself. And if you've ever seen him modeling shirts, it's like, oh, my goodness. I mean, he's a big guy. That 40 time at the Combine, he certainly was able to knock that down some at the pro day. But you're right. I mean, he runs a lot faster than what the stopwatch says, and just the power that he runs with. And he's just so much more versatile. Every year he's added to his game in terms of new skills and so forth, and he's just so driven. I see that continuing. So I really like Audrick's potential at the NFL level.
All right, let's hit a few more defensive guys here, Eric, before we say goodbye. I know you got a lot going on today, so we don't want to hold you for too long. Cam Hart, the cornerback, big kid, 6'3", over 200 pounds. I watched him down at the Senior Bowl in Mobile. I was pretty impressed. Where do you think he fits in best here? Is he a press man guy to you? Is he a guy that you want watching the quarterback in zone to use his length? Where do you think he's going to fit in best in a defensive scheme in the NFL?
I think he hit a lot of places. I mean, there's not a lot of 6'3" cornerbacks with that kind of length and that kind of speed. I mean, he's in Notre Dame's scheme, he was their field cornerback, which I know in the NFL it's not as much difference between corners on the sides because the hash marks are different. But, I mean, he could run when there was a lot of field to cover. He could run with those guys, and he had the speed. So he can press. He can play in zone. He can do all that. I mean, with Cam, the issue, and he came to Notre Dame as a wide receiver, and they flipped him to defense, is just staying healthy. He's had a lot of shoulder surgeries. And if he's healthy on the pro level, you're going to see something special. He has really great physical gifts. Again, another guy that's been through a lot in his life and has come out the right side. But, you know, I think if anything holds him down in the draft, it's the medical history with all the shoulder surgeries on both shoulders.
Wow, that's crazy. Tell me about Leofau and Baptiste, how they're going to do on the next level, linebacker and defensive end.
Yeah, and Eric, why don't you throw J.D. Bertrand into that too, because he's also a linebacker, so you can hit on all three.
Right. So Javonte came from Ohio State, where he was more of a niche player. He was a pass rusher for them, came in on some third downs and rotated in. And he came to Notre Dame and became a complete defensive end. From about the Ohio State game on, which was, I think, game 4, he was one of the best 5 players on the team. And he just changed the trajectory of his future by how he rounded out his game. So I don't know that he's going to get drafted as high as, what he would like, but I think, again, he'll be a steal because I think his best football is still ahead of him, but he accomplished so much. Marist is a real difficult guy to figure out. I was convinced a couple of years ago that Marist Leofau was ready to be Notre Dame's breakout star in defense, and he was coming off of a year where he missed the whole year with a pretty serious lower leg injury that he had suffered in preseason, and he never was quite as consistent, never quite as explosive, and even this year he got better. So he has all the physical tools. It's whether he can put it all together at the next level. J.D. Bertrand is kind of the opposite. J.D. does everything right. He's not as athletic as Marist is, but he gains like half a step because his instincts are so good. He just knows everything about how to play football on defense, and he's a guy a lot of people wrote off. And I mean, again, a lot of these guys we're talking about were 3-star guys come out of high school. JD was too. He's actually initially verbally committed to Georgia and then ended up at Notre Dame. But I mean, if nothing else, he'll be a special teams player and a guy that makes a roster. But Leofau, I mean, it could go either way. He could be out of the NFL very quickly, or he could be like, we always knew he was really good.
All right, Eric, final question. I always like to ask everybody, because you guys are around the team and the program a lot closer than we are. Anyone that we're not talking about that you think we should be in terms of guys hitting the draft circuit here from Notre Dame?
I think we've hit everybody because, again, the guys, I mean, they would have had a much bigger draft class had those 4 defensive players come out, and none of them did, those 4 extras. So we'll be talking about them next year. But, no, I think we hit on all. I mean, they have a kicker that has a chance to make a team just because he's got a really long leg. He's got the school record for longest field goal, and they have a long snapper in Michael Vincent, who I'm sure Howard's familiar with.
Yeah,
who will probably make a squad too because he's really, really good at it. But I think we've hit on all the guys that I think have a chance. There was one guy that performed really well at Pro Day that did not get invited to the Combine, and that was Thomas Harper, who was Notre Dame's nickel. He was a grad transfer from Oklahoma State. I mean, he tested very well, so somebody might really like him. He did a good job in that defense as a nickel.
Eric, great stuff, my friend. Tell the folks anything you want to know about what you're up to.
I am at InsideNDSports.com. We're part of the Rivals Network, and check us out. We also have a YouTube show we'll be on tonight from 7 to 8. We talk football live, or you can watch it any time. It's called Football Never Sleeps.
and it doesn't, Eric. Trust me. We appreciate the time, Eric. Eric Hansen, we appreciate the time, my friend. We'll talk to you soon.
John and Howard, thanks for having me on.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Eric's been joining us. He's one of our longest tenured beat reporters here in college football. So always good to hear from Eric. We're going to try to squeeze in some calls here, folks. We have 7 minutes, so get on the line, 201-939-4513. 201-939-4513. Pearson has to go crying his soup because he just watched the Eagles beat the Patriots in Super Bowl 52. Hi, Pearson. Dom's going to be in for him as we take it the rest of the way. I was expecting some kind of response from him, but I got nothing.
He didn't hit on Hartman. I thought he may have said something about Sam.
You know what? I guess I probably should ask about Sam. Well, I didn't. It's my fault.
You know, I was like, do I ask about him? Do I not? He's not.
No, you could have.
He wasn't bringing him up. I didn't want to, make him have to say something he may not wanted to say.
And look, I think Hartman will be a day 3 quarterback. He just doesn't. To me, he doesn't have a big enough arm to go on day 2. In my
day
opinion.
3, that's the finals. He's like 7th round, 6th.
No.
7th
I mean, it could be any. I would say. I think he could be a 5th round pick. 5th or 6th.
Okay.
I think 5th or 6th.
Interesting.
It's a very shallow draft, Howard.
For quarterbacks.
For everybody.
Okay.
Like you're gonna hit a point somewhere at round 5, maybe early round 6, where this thing falls off the cliff. And the reason is because players, like your son, a lot of them elected to go back for extra years for whatever personal reasons. Some are NIL, some transfer portal.
A lot of it's NIL, a lot of it's right. Like want to get their stock up, so to speak. Some of them are, like I said, when my son told me he really wanted to get that master's degree, I'm like, dude, from Notre Dame, yeah, that'd be good. He goes like, okay.
The NIL doesn't hurt either.
I'm like, that's not bad. It's not bad.
Everybody, thanks for joining us. Let's go to Bobby in Vermont. We'll try to squeeze in 1 or 2 calls here. Bobby, what's up?
Hey, Howard and John. How you guys doing?
Very
Howard,
good.
you're one of the best tight ends the Giants ever had. I
appreciate that. Thank you very much.
And I think the Giants should try to get Joe Alt because we need offensive linemen instead of a stupid quarterback. Because I think we went down that road with Daniel Jones. We don't want him. And I think the offensive linemen are better. Can I tell you one story about the Giants?
Yeah, Bobby, real quick before your story, would you be okay if they picked a wide receiver?
Oh, yeah. We would talk. They talked about the guy from Michigan, right?
No, it'd probably either be the guy from LSU or Washington.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
It would be Rome Odunze from Washington or Malik Neighbors from LSU. And, of course, the Marvin Harrison Jr. somehow gets there.
I was thinking about Neighbors. Maybe Neighbors. Yeah, Neighbors would be good, too.
So what's your story, Bobby? What do you got?
Okay, when we were younger, my aunt and uncle took us to a restaurant in New York called Bennigan's, right? So the waitress did not know who she was sitting next to us, the hostess. So we got to the table. Guess who it was? It was Leonard Marshall of the New York Giants.
Wow.
I almost, my mouth dropped. I was so excited. I couldn't even get his autograph. My aunt had to go get it. the autograph from him, and he made me so happy. After dinner, we shook his hand, and he was very nice. And I met LT at his place, LT's, the bar he used to own.
Yep.
Yeah, Howard Cross, you're awesome, and your son plays good on Notre Dame.
Oh, I appreciate that. He's a great
player. And, John, you do a great job on your thing. And then will you guys say hello to Bob Papa for me, please?
Of course.
Absolutely.
I met him at Giants training camp up in Albany. I used to guys do it all the time in Albany. It's hard to get down to New Jersey. I live in Vermont now. So.
No, I get it. Bobby, the check's in the mail, man. We appreciate the kind words.
Thank you so much.
Let's go Giants.
Thank you, Bobby. Good stuff. 201-939-4513. If we get one real quick, maybe we can squeeze one in here before we get to Tom Kakert, who, again, covers Iowa football for Hawkeye Report. Not a ton of Iowa players this year. It's a little bit of a lighter load, but we'll hit on the guys, and then we'll get back to your calls at 201-939-4513. Howard, as I mentioned, we haven't hosted together in a while.
Yeah.
So I don't know what your thought process is right now. If you're the Giants and you're sitting at 6, like, what are you thinking about right now in terms of what they should or will do when they pick in a couple weeks? Well, there's a difference. What you think they should do and then what you think they will do. You know what I mean?
I mean, first off, I think that you try to get as many draft picks as you can. If there was a way to find a way to squeeze a few more guys in, if you're sitting on a guy that a lot of people want and people are calling you about it, get a couple more draft picks.
How far down would you be willing to move?
Depending on how many picks you're going to give me.
Okay.
Right?
So you'll be willing to go into the teens then.
Yeah.
If you got the right amount of picks.
If you got like a first. Maybe a first and a third or a first and a second, if you can get a couple of picks for that one guy, then yeah, that's what you do. You try and find as many of those guys. You just try to find as many of those guys as you can. If you're not going to do that, you take the best player, and I think it probably was going to be a receiver. But stranger things happen. Like they might kick one or two of the quarterbacks down. You may have to make a decision. Marvin Harrison.
That would be your trade down, right? If one of the quarterbacks get to 6, and maybe you're the Giants, and,
then you'll probably,
and he's not the guy you love, and the guy you think can be the guy. That's where the opportunity is.
But you make him sound like he's the guy you love.
Well, of course you do, absolutely, and that's why the Giants are not going to put it out there picking 6th in the next couple of weeks. I'd be shocked if we saw it leaked, and we haven't seen anything even remotely reported about which one of these quarterbacks the Giants like.
Yeah, and not really. That they say they like a couple of receivers. They've been talking them up a little bit to try to make other people look at them as well. So
which one do you like? Other 3 receivers?
Well, of course you take Harrison if he was available, even though he didn't run or do anything. Then I'll go Neighbors. I like Neighbors. I like the fact that when he's running routes, he's running wide open. I'm a big guy who runs wide open. It's my favorite thing.
Yeah, I'm with you. And he's just explosive, Neighbors, right? I mean, he gets the ball in the stand. It reminds me of Odell against the Ravens with the slant, catches it. And
it's over. You got it. If he's even, he's leaving. So that's what I like. It's not that I don't like the kid out of Washington. I think that kid's a great receiver as well. He's a bigger guy, kind of a tree topper. But I like guys that I see that are extremely open. And he was open a lot, too, because he had a lot of receivers around him. So he was definitely open a lot. And a great quarterback to get him the ball.
We are on the same page. And you would go wide receiver over offensive tackle if that option was presented to you?
I mean, again.
Assuming the players are equal in talent.
If the players are equal in talent, yeah. I'm still going to take the receiver. And this is why. I have a left tackle. Most of the guys we're talking about at the top of the draft that are tackles are left tackles. Can they move? Probably. Will they be great if they move? They'll always have the excuse, I was a left tackle.
You don't have to move a wide receiver. You just put him in there.
He goes from side to side constantly, yeah.
Absolutely. I'm with you. All right, let's get to our next guest. He is Tom Kakert. He's the publisher of the Hawkeye Report at HawkeyeReport.com. Tom, you got John Schmelk and Howard Cross here in East Rutherford, New Jersey. We appreciate the time. Thank you for joining us today.
Guys, how you doing?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
We're doing great, Tom, and this is not one of the busier years for Iowa prospects entering the draft, but we did just have a individual pro day yesterday. Cooper DeJean has been dealing with that lower leg injury. He came back and he didn't do the agility testing, which I do want to ask you about, but otherwise his leaps, his runs, and all that stuff, he checked every box he could at his workout yesterday.
Yeah, by all accounts, talking to some people in Iowa City today, too, they said he just looked tremendous and looked like Cooper DeJean. And I think the interesting thing with him And you guys already have a Hawkeye on your team in the defensive backfield, and Dane Dalton.
Yep.
But is Cooper going to end up being a corner? Is he going to be the next Jason Sehorn? Or is he going to end up being kind of more of a nickel kind of safety, kind of hybrid position in the NFL?
Well, what do you think?
I'm leaning towards more of the hybrid. I really am. I think he's kind of that slot, and because he's bigger, more physical. I don't know if he's going to end up being a corner. It's sort of like Desmond King was a great corner at Iowa. He's had a really good, solid career in the NFL. Most recently with the Texans, but he's been more safety, kind of nickel, hybrid kind of position than he's been a true corner. Well, he was a true corner and a darn good one at Iowa. I mean, he won the Thorpe Award playing corner at Iowa his junior year. So, it's going to be interesting to see where Cooper gets kind of slotted. But I think late first round is probably where he's going to land.
And just to follow up, you mentioned the corner safety thing. I think that's why some people were a little disappointed. We didn't see that agility testing from Cooper DeJean, because I think if there's one consistent criticism I've seen, Tom, on his athleticism is that he might be a little stiff in the hips where he can't change direction quite as well, and that's why I think some people might think he winds up at safety. For me, I draft him, I put him at corner, let him fail out of corner before you move him to safety. You know what I mean? See if he can do it. But is that something you even saw on tape when you watched the games this year, that maybe that change of direction, that hip tightness could be an issue?
Yeah, I think so. And, initially, because we cover recruiting, so when he was recruited to Iowa, everyone thought he was going to be a safety, either free or strong. Didn't really know, but that's kind of where he was penciled at. And then they had some injuries at cornerback his true freshman year, and they just sort of threw him out there, and guess what? He's pretty good. So he just, he's just one of those kids that I don't care where you put him, he's going to make plays, and he's a great, I'll emphasize, great punt returner.
Wow, so, that'll be big for him right there.
So that's that other skill set that he's just one of those guys that the natural instincts are just off the charts. He's a great football player.
Well, the great thing about him, despite the tight hips, he has great ball skills. He really knows how to track the football. When he gets his hands on him, he usually he's just either knocking them down to make sure nobody can get to him or catching them, and he catches a lot of them. So, as a cornerback, when you're doing interceptions and able to make plays on balls like that kind of, no matter what they're saying about you, that raises everybody's eyes up really high and say, like, interesting. Let me give him a second look. So yeah, I like it from that aspect.
Yep.
Yeah, and look, and I'm sorry, I'm going to go ahead, Tom.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No. Please answer. Go ahead.
No, he's really just. You're right about the ball skills. That's one of the things that just stuck out. He was an Army All-American Bowl participant. And he's from a town in Iowa, northwest Iowa, where the population is about 900 people. So he's just, he just played a small level of football, and a lot of those kids just fly under the radar, and you don't get discovered. But he certainly did, and he's just an electric football player. I mean, just makes plays in the biggest moments. He's going to rise up and make a play.
Yeah, and I wonder if he might be involved with the new kick return rule. You can get him in there as the return game in the NFL. And Howard, what I would do, if you wanted to do while we're sitting here, do a Google search of Cooper DeJean dunks.
Oh, I saw him. I saw him. I was looking him up. He was a little hooper now. He was a little hooper. I was like, dang, how tall is that guy? He was jacking guys up. I appreciate that part of his game. But he looks good. So we know. So like I said, very athletic. Like the one criticism, the knock, the hips. Don't know how bad that was going to stand against him, because if he's a good returner, he has good ball skills, he has great hands, and he got a little speed. There's going to be a lot he can do in the league.
Yep.
Now, you got a couple other guys that you think might get drafted as well.
Yeah, and look, Tom, I want to start with Eric All real quick, because we know the the tradition of Iowa tight ends is very strong.
Yes.
You go back to George Kittle, Matt LaPorta. There's other guys in there, too, that have had a lot of success. And, boy, through the first few games this year, Eric All looked like he was going to be added to that list. Then he suffered that terrible knee injury. Can you give us an update on where he is from a rehabilitation standpoint? And how high is the upside for a guy like Eric All when he finally does get healthy?
Yeah, we only saw him for 1 year at Iowa, and really was like 6 games because he transferred in from Michigan. He was a teammate of Cade McNamara and came with Cade to University of Iowa, and boy, he moves so well. He almost seems kind of undersized. He was like kind of like a hybrid wide receiver / tight end. Not a great blocker. I didn't think, but really moves well in the pass game and able to catch the football. And then, unfortunately, tore his ACL in the Wisconsin game, and really kind of a gruesome hit to his knee that ended his season. He did not run at the combine, didn't do anything at the combine. I think he's one of those guys that if you draft him, it's almost like you're stashing him for a year, and you're just going to kind of let him. If he helps you in the second half of the year, great. But otherwise, it's sort of like one of those guys where it's almost like you're redshirting him.
Yep.
But there's a dividend that you're going to get a guy that was probably, if he had stayed healthy and finished up the season playing at the level he was, he's probably a second, third round pick, probably third round, I would say.
Okay.
And now you draft him in the 5th, 6th, 7th round, and you stash him for a year, and you're getting some good value if you've got a need at the tight end position down the road.
That's true. Tell us about Logan Lee then. He's your last guy on your list.
I loved him in Frisco, by the way. I thought he was at the Shrine game, and I thought he was very explosive down there.
Yeah, one of my favorite people, Logan Lee. He's from my home area, so just known him for a long time, and he came to Iowa as potentially being a tight end, and then they, but he's just he put on the weight. He was like 240 pounds when he came in. Now he's probably 280, 290. Hard working, comes from a farm community, so just kind of got those values to him where he's just hard work every day. You don't have to ever worry about this kid. He's no problems. Probably going to be a little undersized at tackle, but a pretty good athlete from my perspective. Probably not a starter where you're playing heavy snaps, but he's going to give you 20 snaps a game at a really high level, and you're not going to see a total collapse or fallback in your group. So he's a guy that third day, take him and you can plug him in, and he's going to help you in every way possible. He'll help you on PATs, kicks, field goals, that sort of stuff too. So he's going to help you in a lot of different ways. There's one other guy that we should mention.
Yeah.
Because Iowa has the best punter in the country in Tory Taylor, and I don't know if the Giants need a punter, but if they do, we got this Aussie guy that was the Ray Guy Award winner who I think is going to get drafted. Wow.
So what did he average?
He was like 45 a punt. Just huge hang time. I would guess, Iowa's offense was not good last year. I don't know if you guys were aware of that, but it was really not good at all. So people got to wearing these T-shirts that said "punting is winning" because without him, Iowa wasn't winning. And he was just dropping balls inside the 20, inside the 10, angling things. He is great touch, incredible punter. So if the Giants need a punter, that third day, that's a guy to look at is Tory Taylor.
Tom, I got one more for you. And again, folks, if you want to get in right now at 201-939-4513, we'll take your calls the rest of the show after we say goodbye to Tom. And Tom, great information, great stuff. Final question for me. You mentioned the Iowa offense. My wife is a Des Moines native, so I've kind of adopted Iowa as my as you know, growing up in New York, you don't really have a big college football team here, so I've adopted Iowa as my home program.
He's got a Caitlin Clark jersey. You don't know that.
I do not have. I did get my wife the Caitlin Clark T-shirt though. I did do that.
I will get one. She's great.
No, she's a really phenomenal player. They tried to open up the offense a little bit last year, and then everyone got hurt, including the quarterback.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that can make a little bit of progress next year? Because they always have a good defense. They always have a good offensive line. They can run the ball usually. They just can never pass the ball. Is that? Do you see that getting fixed anytime soon, Tom?
They got to figure it out.
Fingers are crossed, and they have a new offensive coordinator, Tim Lester, who was kind of like a quality control guy, but studying other opposing defenses up in Green Bay. He was the Western Michigan coach for several years, and was working for Matt LaFleur this past year, kind of prepping his defenses. So he's coming in to run the offense, and you know, we just got done actually talking to some of the defensive players, and they're just raving about the offense and how more explosive it is and how much better it is, and so we'll see. Proof will be in the pudding. I'm going to be skeptical until I see him dropping 30 on the board every week. Then I'll be a believer in the Iowa offense. But you know, it's always going to be kind of a Kirk Ferentz offense, which means it's going to be a very methodical pro style offense, and that's kind of just his mode of operation, and it's served him well over the years, so you can't really complain too much about it.
By the way, I should mention the Giants just hired one of Kirk's sons to be their assistant offensive line coach.
Oh, yeah?
Can you tell us a little bit about him, Tom? Do you have any insight on him?
Who did they hire, Steve?
Oh gosh, you know, now hold on. I believe it was the one that played in the league.
Senior league.
James.
Yes.
James Ferentz.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, James is awesome. He's a really good guy and a great technician. He was a really good center for Iowa. Stunk around in the league. He will be the first to tell you, had no business sticking in the league for 10 years. he just, I saw him last summer, and I said, he's still sticking around. And he goes, they haven't told me to leave yet, so I'm going to
awesome.
I'm going to keep showing up until they tell me to leave. So, he's terrific, and he'll really help. He's a good teacher of the game.
Yeah, we're looking forward to having him here. Tom, awesome stuff, my friend. Tell the folks where they can find all your great Iowa coverage.
Yeah, go to HawkeyeReport.com. We're part of the On3 network, and stop by. We're just got a lot of stuff, and we'll be covering the draft too. So that's awesome.
We look forward to seeing it, Tom. We always know Iowa players when they come into the pros. They're smart, they're tough, and they know how to play in a pro system. So teams know what they're getting when they get Iowa players, and I think the track record is actually pretty strong when you draft those Iowa players from Kirk Ferentz's system.
Yep, absolutely.
Appreciate the time, my friend.
Hey, thanks, guys.
That's Tom Kakert. Go again, check out his stuff at HawkeyeReport.com.
They're opening up the offense. Boy, they're going to shock a lot of people if they do that in Iowa.
I was going to joke with them. You know, they have to show off their offense against their new natural rivals, USC and UCLA, out there in the Big Ten West.
It's better to talk about Caitlin than talk about that. Don't do that.
Are those the only? Did they end up adding Washington and Oregon too?
I think they're about to. I think basically almost everybody left, except for like Arizona and.
Well, Arizona State went to the Big 12, right? Or Arizona went to the Big 12, or both of them maybe. I don't know. They tore their conference.
I can't
keep track of this anymore.
Yeah, they chase those TV deals, man.
Did Stanford go anywhere?
No.
I have no idea.
No.
Tom, look that up. Can you find out where all the Pac-12 teams went? I have no idea.
They used to be Pac-12?
Yes, exactly. All right, 201-939-4513. Let's go to my OG Steve in D.C. He wants to talk some draft. Steve-O, what's up, buddy?
Steve?
What's going on, Johnny? How you doing?
We're good, man. How are you? Long time no speak.
I'm doing well. Peace to you, Howard, man. Appreciate everything you've done for my G, man. Much respect to you and much love as well.
Thank you so much.
Listen, man, I'm a little worn out. You know, Charlie and I, we communicate on a daily. You know, we're old school with it. But
I'm surprised you're able to think and function having to talk to Charlie every day, Steve. I'm impressed.
Listen, that's my ace, man.
I love Charlie. You know that. I just tease him.
Listen, Listen, it's wearing thin on us. We're arguing, we're fighting, we're talking all the possibilities. And I'm just going to tell you this. John, I respect everyone's perspective when it comes to this quarterback. I'm pro quarterback at this. Let me just make it clear. I'm pro quarterback.
Okay.
For many, many reasons. I mean, so I would just simply say this.
And Steve, believe it or not, despite what people on Twitter will tell you, I'm actually extremely open to picking the quarterback. I just want it to be the right one. You know what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying, John, and I tell you this, and I know I've watched all your interviews. I don't care if it's Kurt Warner. I watched. I forgot. I can't even think the quarterback who was actually here. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank right now. But listen, I've been doing so much research on these quarterbacks because really that's what I want, and I'm a lot higher on these quarterbacks than most people. Early on, but I would just say this. I mean, every pick you take is going to have its pros, its cons, its risk, and its rewards.
Absolutely.
And I'll just tell you, I understand the fact that that Michael Penix was injured, a few, more than once on both his rotators, whatever, but it was 2 years ago. And this talent is, to me, it's way too much to turn him out to pass on. I feel like we're looking a gift horse in the mouth and we're overthinking. And here's what I get it. If people want to cite that and that's the reason we're coming away from Daniel Andrews, I get that. But here's what I don't get is when people say, I'll move back and I'll get him in the second or the bottom of the first. If the guy's not good enough to pick at the sixth, do me a favor. Do not take a receiver. If you're not going to be, in our opinion, smart enough to take a quarterback, because I actually, I believe it. Even though I'm not a McCarthy guy, I do think he's worthy of the sixth pick. I'm a Penix guy all the way.
Really?
I believe his. Yeah, really. I'm gonna get out. You can have everything. I would just say this. That's not my guy. First of all, Howard. That's not what I'm saying. Okay, I'm not saying. I'm a Penix guy. And mainly because I really believe he's the number 2 all day if you remove these injuries. I'm not afraid of the whole age thing. He's not 34. He's 23. So, and I'm not going to hold his experience or the players he played with around him. But I know what my eyes are seeing. Yeah. And he's clearly the better processor and the most accurate and the best leader. He makes all the players on the field better. And that's what I want from my New York Football Giants. I understand you're rolling the dice with any players. Scared money, don't make money. Michael Penix is going to shine so well. So if you're not going to take him with any quarterback in the 6th, I don't want to move back and let somebody else just get more picks. Let somebody else take the quarterback. But I don't want a receiver because the receiver is not going to move the needle. And I'm tired of watching track stars running up and down the field and not get hit with the ball anyway. So move back and get more picks if you're not going to take a quarterback. I can't tell you who to be happy with, but if you don't deem one of these guys are going to be there at the, when you pick, then move up and go get your guy. But stop acting like we don't need somebody. I've already known. Do whatever you got to do, but to sit here and watch all these other teams come from behind us and jump us like we the smartest guys in the room and we don't need a quarterback, that is disheartening.
Well, Steve, all right, Steve, hold on. I want to ask you a question. Would you be willing to trade up for one of these guys, or do you want to just sit and pick? Because I think you can sit and pick for Penix. I think if that's your guy, you can sit there and pick and you'll be okay. But would you be willing to move up a couple spots, cost yourself next year's one to get somebody else?
Absolutely. They don't got to be. Listen, they don't have to be on Penix board, but go get your guy. Stop acting like we don't need a quarterback. That's all I'm saying. If Penix and you don't see somebody there that's worthy of that 6th pick, then go and get him. Go and get him. But don't come up with excuses talking about, we couldn't afford it, the price is this, that, and the other. All these other teams want to do it, but we're not. No, I'm not. That's not acceptable. Get it done. I'm not in the excuse business. Okay, get it done. If your guy's not going to be there at 6, go and get him where he's at. And if we had the 26th pick, Howard and everybody else talking about, this pick is too high, then I'd be glad to take him where we are. But we got a 6th pick. So there's no difference to me between the 6th and the 2nd round. They both have value. To dismiss it and act like, it's too high, that's a ridiculous argument to me. And I don't, so listen, everybody, I respect other people's opinion, but to me, it's just, if he's not worthy at the 6th pick, then what are you doing wasting a 2nd round pick on him? We could do it, we could get, a receiver in this draft, because there's a lot of them there that'll probably be number 1. So a receiver is not the answer at 6. That's the last thing we need to be doing. The very last thing. I appreciate y'all letting me get my rant out.
No problem,
But I'm
Steve.
telling you, if I'm a pro Penix because I think he's going to be the second best quarterback.
Now, Steve, real quick, can I give you my little thumbnail analysis on Penix, just so you have it?
I know it, but I want to listen. Yes, absolutely. I know it, though, John.
Okay, well, I look again.
Go ahead.
No problem. That's okay.
Yeah,
Look, I like Michael Penix as a player. I think, to your point, he has an excellent arm. I think when he has a clean pocket, he's able to throw the ball down the field. He's a tremendous downfield ball thrower. He throws that back shoulder throw extremely well in the coverage. He gets rid of the ball quickly. I think he does read pretty quickly, and he gets the ball out, which is why his sack rate is as low as it is, along with the fact that he's a really good offensive line in front of him. I think that's part of it, too. I think that's what if you give him a clean pocket and let him operate unfettered, I think he can be a really good downfield passer. Here's the problem you run into. When he gets to the NFL, no, and he's able to move his feet and navigate around the rush a little bit. But here are the issues I see with him, and I'm going to put the injuries aside because I'm not a doctor. I don't know what the medicals say, right? Okay, but that is going to be a concern for a lot of teams. I think when you do, and go to the Michigan game, when you do get pressure on him and things break down a little bit, I think the accuracy does break down. I think oftentimes he doesn't hit guys. He's accurate, but his ball placement in terms of hitting guys in stride isn't quite as good as I think you see on the TV copy. When you look at the coach's tape, I don't think it's quite as good, especially when he has to move his feet. And I do think that
he's more of a pure pocket passer.
Yes, he is a pure pocket passer, and he tested well. I think he's a straight-ahead athlete. I don't think he's a great side-to-side of that type of elusive type of guy. So, and he doesn't work the middle of the field in small areas a ton. So those are my knocks on him. Again, I think he has a chance if he goes to the right system, at the right NFL team with the right pieces around him, he has a chance to be a good NFL quarterback. For me, at pick number 6, given the other high-end players I could get at that position, and it's the same thing I'll say about J.J. McCarthy, that's a little rich for me.
Listen, I'm going to say this last thing, please. Just like Kurt Warner told you, first of all, they all got flaws, John. Don't act. You say that like he can't be fixed.
Of course.
He got the worst. He got the worst mechanics out of all of them, and he scares me in the green zone. So let's not even talk about how inaccurate and sporadic he gets. And so he's had plenty of time to clear that up.
Oh no,
so, listen,
Steve. First of all, Drake May is a redshirt sophomore. Okay, first of all, he hasn't played a lot. He hasn't played a lot of football, and he played with an offensive line and a group of wide receivers that wouldn't even see the field in Washington. They wouldn't even see the field compared to the talent Penix had around him in Washington.
You can't control who you play with, but I can sit here and talk about the competition level. Listen, John, I will break Drake May down into, but believe me, just like I forget who's a man whose brother plays for the Raiders, who used to play for us. I don't even know why I can't think of it. The quarterback used to play for us. His brother played for the Raiders.
David Carr. David Carr.
Yeah. You watch his breakdown. Here's the thing. He said to me, they don't even really belong on the same field as Michael Penix, skill-wise. His processing is elite. But listen, I appreciate all the time you gave me. I don't even want to say nothing else because I'm afraid I'm going to get cut out before I can articulate everything.
You're all good, Steve.
Thank you very much. That was a very good call.
Thank you, Steve. Good call.
So I'm not opposed to picking quarterback that high. I'm not for picking quarterback that high. I say pick the best player that's available. If you need to move up, you have to be really sold on who you're moving up to get. And that's just not anything. Yep. You just got to be like super sold, like, hey, look, what am I going to give up to get somebody that I think is going to be a game changer at the moment and doesn't need 100% protection maybe. Because that's what a quarterback's going to be basically in our division and in the league in general.
You can't just sit back there and take sips of coffee. You're going to have to deal with pressure.
Like I said, I've said in the past, like there are quarterbacks out there that you can get later. I think the kid from Florida State that people aren't thinking about that was right up there for the Heisman. Like he was really talented. Hurt his knee. If he came out in the draft, guy you should look at. Give him a red shirt year.
And by the way, you mentioned, I think Eric All from Iowa too, right? With the Waller stuff, you could pick a guy like him in round 5 or 6 and redshirt him for a year and then try him next year. I'd be okay with that too. By the way.
Spencer Rattler down in South Carolina, another guy that's like it's not going to be there the top 2 or 3, and then you make your decision. You got two talented guys that are going to be out there.
Hey, look, and by the way, he's right about Drake May. Drake May's not a perfect prospect. Like, he's a scatter shot accuracy.
No.
He can, because of his footwork and stuff like that. And there are a lot of people out there that I respect a whole lot, including Kurt Warner, that love Michael Penix. And Michael Penix has a lot going for him.
But everybody can improve.
Of course.
Yep, and everybody can be exposed too, but everybody can improve. So I like the quarterbacks that are at the top of the draft. I think they're going to be interested in see how far they come. And I don't have nothing against McCarthy. I just don't. He didn't play in a system where he had to use his arm. So I don't know if going from throwing it 15 to maybe 20 times a game to having to throw it 30 times a game and being dependent on, if that will affect him or not.
Daniel Jeremiah, I thought, came out with an interesting comp for Penix, which the more I thought about it, the more I liked it.
Okay.
Joe Flacco.
Penix is Joe Flacco.
It's not bad. When you think about it, one's a lefty, one's a righty. I get that.
Yeah.
But it's not bad.
Like I said, I like Penix. I like Penix as a quarterback. I don't know if I like him as rich as number 6, but I like him.
That's where I am too.
Yeah.
I love watching him play. That Washington team was so
phenomenal.
much fun to watch last year.
He was phenomenal. He fit the ball in when he needed to fit it in. I think the middle of the field gets a little cloudy. I don't know, not sure why, but the little field gets a little cloudy to him when he's trying to throw it. So outside of that,
Hey, look, and I'll say this too. He mentioned the Kurt Warner huddle. Go check that out. It's on the Giants Huddle podcast right now. It's half an hour of Kurt Warner basically just talking about why it's so difficult, even for him, a Hall of Fame quarterback, to evaluate college quarterbacks. And the reason he said to me, and again, you can find the Giants Huddle podcast, Giants app, Giants.com/podcast, YouTube, wherever you find your podcast, just search for Giants Huddle. We have that. Matt Waldman today. We have a bunch of great interviews last week, too. We have one huddle a day, folks, between now and the draft. So there's a ton of content. Go find it, subscribe, and listen. So the point he made is that, and we have one more call on Hall. We will get to you. He's trying to evaluate these college quarterbacks by trying to see things they do in college that they're going to be asked to do in the pros, right? Dropping back, reading the defense, making throws. He goes, John, I got to be honest with you. I'm watching these guys, and you just don't see a ton of it. Like, you watch Jaden Daniels, he's accurate, he's fast, he puts good touch on the ball. But he goes, they run the same play 15 times a game. Yeah. Like, you're not going to be able to do that in the NFL, right? So what happens when things change? And that's why with these quarterback guys, I'm not going to really, get really mad and argue with you, because everyone has their own taste, and it's literally a 50-50 hit rate in the NFL with these first-round quarterbacks. It's hard. The NFL's not good at it. No one's good at it. It's really a really, really tough thing to do, especially when, like us, you don't have the opportunity to sit down with these guys, talk to them, go through tape with them in a meeting room and all that stuff. So it's really hard. So I get it. We can have our disagreements on it, and that's fine. It's just a really, really tough quarterback to evaluate.
I think the thing that's probably the hardest thing of all, is that guys don't. Did you lose me?
No, go ahead. You're just on.
The guys don't do this. That it's, if you can sit down and ask a guy when a play is run, what was the play call? What are the routes? Why'd you make this decision?
You're correct, right?
Those are the things that
Correct.
as fans, and we're fans basically. Even though we're doing the broadcast, there fans of the moment. If we don't know why you're doing something and what you're supposed to be looking at, then we don't know.
And that's why, like I said, it's like Joe Shane has pointed. That's why it's so important to get into these meetings and get on the video, get on the board with these guys and Brian Dable to figure out what their thought process is on these plays. And Kurt Warner said the same thing in my interview with him. He goes, without talking to these guys and talking through what their thought process is in these plays and what they're seeing, it's hard for us and to me to make a definitive judgment. I will not talk about quarterbacks definitively, because I know my level of information on them, and frankly, I've never played the position. You know what I mean?
Nope.
I mean, so I'm going off. I'm making the best evaluation I can based on their physical tools. We talked about this with Steven Ruiz on the huddle last week.
Yeah.
Since I don't know what their processing is. I don't know what they're thinking. I can't see that from tape, but I can see what their physical tools are. So that's what I have to base my evaluation on.
It's like I said, I tell people this all the time when you're watching quarterbacks. You see a guy scrambled outside the pocket and he's looking really great, gets the long pass down the field. That's awesome. Who was he supposed to throw it to?
Right.
Like what was the play design? Who were the three reads? You very rarely hear them talking about in college, or maybe the announcers don't do it a lot, but you never hear about people talking about going to their second read and their third read, and because they don't really know what the plays are themselves.
And what kind of read is it? Is it a full field progression? Is it, all right, if it's cover 2, you throw to this guy. If it's man, you throw to this guy. You don't even know what the progression is on the play.
If you know the guy's pressed on the backside, are you looking, okay, you know he's going to run a go. If he's being pressed, it's where's the safety standing? What's that do to the guy in the slot or the tight end? And as you look to the far side, does he stand on the inside of the guy or the outside of the guy?
What's the leverage, right?
Yeah, so you have to know, like, okay, down, set. Is it a straight drop back? Are you taking a 5-step drop? So you know where the ball is going to be. Who is the back going to check down? Is the back not checking down? Like, you have to know all the things he should be looking at before he starts running. And how soon did he run?
Yeah.
Did he run at 2 seconds? Did he run at 3 or 4 seconds? Did he had more time, or did he run instantly?
Stay in there and find somebody? Yeah. Howard, you 100%. It's just a really, really hard position to evaluate.
And I love all these exciting guys that bounce around and do everything, but if you don't know where they're supposed to be going with the ball, they may be making mistakes when they're doing that. So it's going to be interesting to see.
100% true. So
which is kind of an argument for Penix, huh?
No, it is. No, you're right about that. And what I would say, Howard, is that everyone, and I know this is a very tough thing on social media and in the real world, everyone should exercise a fair bit of humility when it comes to saying things definitively, especially about the quarterback position, because it's such a hard thing to do. It's one of the hardest evaluations in all of sports. Be a little humble with it, okay? You know, right now Drake May is my second guy. Would I be shocked if Jaden Daniels is better than Drake May? Nope. Wouldn't shock me. Wouldn't shock me at all. Because that's the nature of the position. No one knew C.J. Stroud was going to be as great as he was in his rookie year. No one. And I even talked to, I'm sure Kurt has no problem with me saying this, when we were done, me and him were just chatting for a couple minutes before he got off, and he goes, and I'm like, yeah, Kurt, I told him, I appreciate your humility in these evaluations. He goes, well, yeah. I mean, you watched C.J. Stroud's tape at Ohio State last year. There was no reason to think he was going to come out and be that good in the NFL. There was no reason to think that. I had no reason to think that. Nobody did. And that's what makes this so difficult.
Yeah, it's crazy. But we'll see.
It is, and that's why it's fun. That's why it's fun to talk about, debate, and argue, and that's why we're doing this. So, Steve, good call. I appreciate your love for Penix. Charlie, I appreciate your love for Penix. And I hope by all accounts, he's a good kid. I hope he has a really good NFL career.
I think he's going to have a good career.
Yeah. Let's go to Jamal in Maryland. He's up next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hi, Jamal.
Hey, how's it going?
What's up, buddy?
Thank you, first-time caller. Been listening since the beginning. Much respect to you, John and Howard. I just wanted to talk about the actual process of building a winning team, a Super Bowl contending team.
Sure.
And it seems like fans only have one way, and it's not just fans. I hear a lot of so-called experts and professionals. They only talk about one way, where you have to have a quarterback. Now, saying that, obviously, I understand that quarterback is the most important position on any football team, and that's going back since the beginning. Bart Starr was the most important player on this team. I mean, you go back to the beginning. Quarterback has always been the most important. But what I see with my eyes, what I see every year, it's the best team that wins the Super Bowl. You go back to the last 3 Super Bowl teams that won a Super Bowl. They had a good
Jamal, I hear you, dude, but they also had Patrick Mahomes, Matthew Stafford, and Tom Brady.
Oh, okay, I'm about to get to that. I'm about to get to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, before the Chiefs get Patrick Mahomes, weren't they in the playoffs?
Yeah, but
they had a good. They had a good team.
Correct.
And then they went and they got their guy.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, they went up and they got Carson Wentz. You look at that roster; they had a good team. All right, let's go to the Rams, because they did it a completely unconventional way. They went through free agency and they pieced together a Super Bowl team. They didn't get it done with Jared Goff. Then they went and got their guy.
It was a trade. It was a trade, right? It was a trade.
Exactly. I said that's unconventional, but they built the team first. If you look at San Francisco built it, and they had Jimmy G. Everybody thought Jimmy G was a top 10 guy. I'm screaming from the top of my lungs. He's not.
Yeah, it is hard though, really Jamal. I totally get what you're saying, but it is hard once you build the team and you're a good team to find a great quarterback, because so often these quarterbacks come with top 5 picks.
A lot of these guys aren't. Nick Foles wasn't a great quarterback. Stafford was drafted top 10. He's a really, really good quarterback. Is he Mahomes? Is he great?
No, but he's but he is a guy that when he's on is a top 5 quarterback.
Yeah,
okay, that's fair. But what did that do for Detroit?
I respect what you're saying. I do.
Hold on, but what did it do for Detroit? He was the guy. He's a franchise quarterback, and they did not win.
No, Jamal, if you have a bad team but a good quarterback, you're not going to win.
That's my point.
No, you're right about that.
That's my point.
But guys are trying. All these guys are trying to build teams, right? And I understand it.
It doesn't look like It doesn't look like that. Look at Carolina. Look at what Carolina did last year.
Okay.
They sold the whole team just to get a quarterback.
But they thought,
and now we're shocked that they're horrible.
But I'm telling you, a lot of teams are trying to build good teams. Now, the reason why they do it the way they're doing it, if you think about it, is this: you need a quarterback on a 5-year deal as a rookie. If you have the quarterback on his 5-year deal as a rookie and be able to get him in this extension before you have to give him the extension, give him the 6-year option or 5th-year
option, yeah.
5th-year option, then you can build your team around him.
Right, because you have so much more money
because you have more capital to spend.
That's a great point.
That sounds really good in theory, but how many times has that actually worked?
And it worked with Patrick Mahomes.
That's one. That's one. But they already had a playoff team.
Just hold on. They worked with Patrick Mahomes. It worked with Baltimore.
The Ravens got very far with Lamar.
Went really far. It worked with Tom Brady.
They didn't win the Super Bowl.
It worked with Tom Brady for 1,000 years in New England. It works all the time.
Tom Brady was on a really good team.
And Tom Brady was
but that's the point, Jamal. You can build a really good team if the quarterback's on a rookie deal.
It takes time to build all these guys up because the moment they all get this, what just happened to Philadelphia, your cupboard is not bare, but you lose a lot of guys the moment that you start having to pay your quarterback and some other guys.
Jamal, just to wrap this up because we're a little bit over. So I guess your point you're trying to make is
build
the
team
Giants
first.
Aren't ready for the quarterback yet.
Build
the team
yet.
And then add the quarterback later.
Not yet. And then hold on, just one last.
No, that's
point.
Okay. Go ahead. You're fine.
Because I know a lot of fans can't stand Daniel Jones, and that's fair. If you don't like him, that's your prerogative. But to evaluate a quarterback and exclude the team is crazy to me. For Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. For Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll to evaluate this quarterback on the team that he was playing with and say, you know what, we can win with this guy. And before he can even do anything, gets hurt, everybody around him gets hurt and say, you know what, he's horrible. We need our guy. That's crazy to me.
No, Jamal, look, I understand, and I think you can believe both these things at the same time, right? I guess my response would be, you don't feel, and again, I'm very open to picking a wide receiver. They're going to pick Maliki Neighbors or Rome Odunze or Marvin Anderson Jr. I'm going to be a very happy camper. So I'm all good with that. But I think the theory, and I'll play devil's advocate to you, is you hope, even if you don't draft a quarterback this year, that you're going to be closer to 500, maybe over, and you're going to be picking somewhere between 19 and 20, and then you're a better team. To your point, your team then looks more prepared to accept a quarterback into its loving embrace, so you can put together a complete team with a quarterback. Where are you getting that quarterback?
Well, I've seen the Eagles move up twice in the draft. So I don't really subscribe to this. Oh, you have to do this, you have to do that. You can have the 25th pick. If you see your guy, go get him. And look at what San Francisco did.
Ooh.
They had a really good team, right? So they said, you know what, we want to get our guy. Even though they missed, they threw whatever asset they had to get their guy, and it didn't hurt them.
Oh,
you know why it didn't hurt them?
It hurt them.
They had a really good team.
That Trey Lance trade hurt them. They were just able to overcome it.
No, how? Is Brock Purdy a top 10 quarterback?
Yeah, they fell ass backwards into the last pick in the draft.
But I'm saying, no, I'm not saying he's not a good quarterback. I'm saying that's still
I understand. No, Jamal, I agree. I'm not saying he's not a good player either, and I'm not making fun of Brock Purdy. But look, if they thought Brock Purdy was that good, they would have picked him in the 5th round.
Just remember, I'm telling you this.
No. My argument is they understand on the quarterback, but the team was so good that it didn't hurt him.
So I'll make it easier for you. I've got your argument. Your argument is you should build your team first, get a good team, and then you can try to fit the quarterback in. And not every team is trying to do that, including the Giants. The problem with what your argument is that as you try to evaluate a quarterback and they're hit or miss, right, and you don't really know, and you're hoping that this guy's going to be great, and you're pulling for this guy to be great, and he's not really that great at the end of the day, that's one position. Multiply that by every position when you're trying to draft. When you're trying to put a team together, you're hoping that these guys that you draft, and like there are guys on this team I love to death.
That's fair.
Right? And they're not performing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can't say like their teams aren't trying to build teams. Some.
No, that's not what I'm saying. All I hear is people say, "Get the quarterback first. Get the quarterback first." Like,
you know what everybody's trying to do. Everybody's trying to get the best draft they have. We'll have a great draft class.
Thank you, Jamal.
Once a year. Appreciate the call. We'll have a great draft class one year, an average one year, a great one, and like. That's better than it used to be. We used to have a great draft class once every 10 years.
Right.
Now, I don't know that had a function of the players that were out there or what, or who you were evaluating or talent needed or whatever, but it's hard to put together a team and think that they're going to be the guys that you sign them for. The guy you see on film, when he gets to you, he's a few months older. He just is. And you see guys – their expiration date picks up a little earlier and earlier. So I understand what he's saying. He's right. You need to build a team. But if you're evaluating a quarterback to be your draft pick and he's one player and you miss on him, imagine missing on a bunch of guys.
Yeah, and look, and I'll just say this before we wrap here. It is easy to get stuck in that 8 to 10 win area, and you can't figure a way out of it. Look at what just happened to the Vikings with Kirk Cousins. They've been languishing in that 9-win area forever, and they eventually just say, look, we can't take the next step by paying Kirk. To your point with the quarterback contracts, right? We can't pay him $45 million because we can't build a good enough team around him to win. So it becomes more difficult then, and you get stuck in that land of mediocrity, and it's not as easy, Jamal, as you make it out to be. Oh, well, if there's a guy you like, just trade up and you go and get him. Well, maybe the team doesn't want to trade out. You know what I mean? Like,
which means it costs you more.
Correct, or you just can't get him at all, and you can't acquire the player.
And Jamal wasn't saying, the guy before Jamal probably said that. So here would be my last thing.
Yes.
And this we can get off. But
yes, sorry,
Brian Daboll and those guys won, got into the playoffs
and won a playoff game.
Mm-hmm. They had so many one-loss games one-score games that they won. The same amount of one-score games they won the year before, they lost them the following year.
They flipped. It wasn't a complete flip, but it was close enough.
It's very close.
Yes.
Very close. Like it was like so many games. The Jets game, the Bills game, you just keep tapping them, and like they were just one score, one play here, one play there, different scenario. All of a sudden, the Giants are in the playoffs again. That's not a big variable right there. So that's 9 to 10 wins either way, both years in a row. You got to figure out how to get past that moment, how to make those 1-score games, 2-score games into positive, and if you keep people healthy first, you have more wins.
And I think to Howard, I'm going to go back to what you said about 10 minutes ago, and then we'll say goodbye. You said just pick the best player.
Yeah.
And that's what you do. If you can pick a quarterback at 6, and it's just a guy and not the guy, then you're stuck in the land that Jamal's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That you don't want to be in, right? So that's why the evaluation of Daniel Jones is irrelevant in all this. It's just a matter of how good you think the quarterback is. If you think the quarterback can be special, by all means, pull the trigger. If you don't think the quarterback is going to be special, then pick the player you do think is going to be special at a different position. Yeah. And that's kind of the way I look at it.
I like the kids that are coming out.
I
like the kids that are coming out of quarterback. I appreciate all of them, but I don't think any of them could play behind the team if we don't have a team for them to play behind.
No, that's true too.
That's it.
And especially if you have to go and move up to get one of these guys and you're trading other picks, then you can't fill out the rest of your roster too. It makes it even harder.
There was a famous NFL commercial at one time when Carr was the quarterback at the Texans, and he was like, "Yep, you get the number 1 pick in the draft, and your season's supposed to look great." And he's standing there taking a snap from nobody. There's no one in front of him. I'll always remember that.
And there's a reason he got sacked as many times as he did. Howard, this was fun, brother.
All right, brother.
Good seeing you, man. All right, we'll be back tomorrow. It should be Lance and I. If Lance is back on the men, I'm trying to get someone from Michigan. I'll send some more texts when this show is done. We'll be on talking Big Blue football with you right here on Big Blue Kickoff Live on Wednesday at 12:30. It's all brought to you by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. For Howard Cross, I'm John Schmuck. We'll see you next time, everybody.